We are live. Hey everyone, I'm really excited to be co-hosting this event from Burnout to Bliss. We're live on Facebook and YouTube, and I have my beautiful friend and co-host here and fellow fitness expert, Katharina Kunz. If you are joining in live with us, then we want to welcome you. And thank you so much for being here. And if you're watching the replay, make sure that you drop that hashtag replay so that we know that you've come back and you've carved out the time to watch. And for that, we are so appreciative. So if you don't know me, my name's Genevieve Morrone, and I've got Katharina Kunz here with me. We're going to introduce ourselves a little more in depth in just a moment. We have a topic for you that we are both just so passionate about. So it's deciding to co-host together on this topic was really a no-brainer. We really want to bust the myth that doing more, pushing more, striving for more in your fitness gets you more in your routines. We want to bust that myth out of the water today. So we've both been out down the path of burnout in our fitness journeys, and it wasn't until after the fact that we realized it. And we went from that place of complete overtraining and burnout to healing ourselves using simple and sustainable approaches. And we now teach those steps in our own private communities. So what I love about Katharina's style is how she really encompasses and embraces the often overlooked concepts that are so unique to women. And she really looks at the natural ebb and flow of energies through the rhythmic cycles that we go through each month. So we're going to go into some ways for you to recognize if you're heading down the path of burnout, and maybe you're already there or maybe you've been there. And we want to talk about how you can actually start to shift and get more from your fitness and health habits in less time than the conventional or societal influenced ways. So as people are joining in, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Firstly, we are streaming this event live. So we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube. So there's a link in the description. I would love for you to click. That gives StreamYard permission for us to see your avatar, because we want this to be a really interactive event. We want you to comment. So as you join in, just make sure you're dropping a line or give a little heart emoji or something to let us know that you're here. And we'll be able to see your comments if you've granted StreamYard access. All you have to do is click the link in the description wherever you are watching. We're going to try to keep this short and sweet, but like I said, it is a very passionate topic of interest for us to talk about. So as long as we're still delivering you good value, we'll go as long as it takes. So yeah, so again, make sure you're commenting and you're getting interactive, and let's jump into it.
Thank you, Genevieve. That's quite the introduction, and I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm so excited to be doing this with you. And when I first met you, to be able to share our stories and realize like we have gone from burnout to bliss, and so there must be so many other people. So for us to collaborate and connect in this way is so exciting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we want to start out with this question, and we're going to dive into a little bit of background and give you some context about where our stories led. But before we jump in too much into the content, we want to start out with the question, what does burnout look like to you? What signs need to show up for you to know that you're heading down that path, or maybe you've crossed over into that burnout stage? So if you're watching live, we'll just give you a few moments to type in what that looks like to you. And even on, as you're typing things in, we'll keep an eye out for that, and we'll just hop on into our stories of where we started and where we're at now, and kind of why we were inspired to bring our work out into the world. Do you want to start us off, Katharina?
Happy to. So hello out there, and thanks for tuning in. Yeah. So burnout, what did burnout look for me? So I've always been somebody who's been active, who has been valued health and fitness. And I had a relationship with my body that when I was younger, I didn't realize that what was showing up for me was this inability to navigate my emotional world. And so what I used to do was use food to stuff down those emotions, because the feeling of that heaviness in my body was more comfortable than that vibrating uncertainty energy that was happening. And so why I'm bringing this up is because it was one of the things that was a key piece in the mindset that I had around what I needed to do in order to have a body that I loved. So I started, I felt like, okay, I started working out when I was 16, and I was thinking, okay, I'm, starting to see some results. I was getting really excited, and I was so hyper focused on like, I can get rid of this much, and I could get rid of this much more. Oh, and if I go another time today, then I'm even going to get better results. And so I started to even get more rigid with my eating, and and hyper focused on food and what I could eat and how I could eat, and where can I get my workouts in. And which ultimately led to, like I said, that eating disorder. I had anorexia, and what was starting to show up in my body was anxiety. My nervous system was tapped out. I got mono. I was hypersensitive to things that I wasn't sensitive to anymore. If I drank a cup of coffee, I thought I was going to lose it. My whole system was out of whack. I lost my period for a year. And I didn't look vibrant. I didn't feel vibrant. And I lost that juiciness that the feminine has. I lost my cycle. So that was my first sign of burnout, because I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and I wasn't listening to the signs in my body.
Yeah. And how often, I love that you bring that up, because how often do women especially live in that state? If it's not related, doesn't even have to be related to fitness. It can be in any aspect of life, that pushing, that striving, that showing up for everybody else. And what suffers is us, right?
Absolutely.
So that constant drive and push and more. And I don't know what it is, but you, me, a lot of other women out there probably feel the same, with that limiting belief that, if I do more, I'll get more. Right. Absolutely. And it comes back into like self-worth as well. Like we can go so deep with that.
And superwoman, like we pride ourselves often of like, look at what I can do, and I can do more. And it's like trying to like keep all the balls in the air, and not really realizing that if we take care of ourselves and we listen to that intrinsic flow, that knowing that when we recharge our batteries, that we're going to have so much more to give, and that we're not meant to, be here to like push.
Right. Yeah. Love that story.
How about you, Genevieve? What was your?
Yeah. Let's chat about that. So back in, I've always been one of those fitness enthusiasts as well, like really hardcore into fitness, hardcore into yoga. And that started when I was about 18. Leading up to that in high school, and that I was the kid who would get a note to be excused from phys ed. I didn't want anything to do with exercise. So it was kind of funny how the switch flipped when I turned 18. But and really you are either one of two people when it comes to exercise. You're either the person that just loves it and just enjoys it thoroughly, or you're the person that has a lot of resistance to it, and it's usually the first thing just to kind of go to the wayside, right? I was the person who really loved it. So what really started to change, that was back in around 2010, 2011, this big trend of HIIT training, or high intensity training, was coming to the surface, especially in gyms and group fitness settings. And I really took to it. I saw a lot of results in a little amount of time with it. But it's when I started to push it beyond my capabilities physiologically, that's when I started to suffer. And it was all triggered by one specific event. And that was when I got engaged. I went wedding dress shopping, and I had a budget laid out, and I found the dress of my dreams, but of course it was out of budget. And I went to order in the dress, and the sales lady ordered me in a size that was about 2 sizes smaller than what I normally would consider myself to be. So I got into this cycle of obsession, like, oh my God, I'm spending all this money on this dress. I better fit into it. So I started to train harder. And I thought, the harder I train, then the more results I'll see, and I'll for sure fit in this dress. I became really obsessed with food. And like Katharina said too, like really rigid in everything with fitness and with food, and just doing more and not allowing any time for recovery. Yeah, I was fit, I was lean, I was super strong. I was all the things that I thought defined healthy. So I thought, hey, I must be doing something right. I am on the right path. But in hindsight, I was questioning, or was I really on that right path? What I didn't realize was when my body was really screaming at me at a very subtle level to just pump the brakes a little bit. But the signs, because they weren't over obvious for me, I wasn't super connected with my body on an internal level at that point. It was very easy for me to pass them off and accept them as normal. And again, you see this all the time come up, where these subtle signs that our body brings up. So with societal influences ingrained in my mind as well, of what fit and healthy looked like from the outside, I thought, hey, I think I've really nailed it. But I was completely disconnected to what was showing up. And the symptoms that I started to feel were things like I was starting to feel mood swings. I was irritable. I was overtraining. So I was training 2 to 3 times a day. I'm also a nurse, and at that time I was working shift work. So I was, before and or after a night shift, I was hitting the gym for intense workouts. I would wake up after a couple hours of sleep, middle of the day after a night shift, and go to the gym or go to like a power yoga class or something really heavily strength-based. So I was losing sleep. My sleep was very broken, interrupted, lots of muscle cramps, shin splints, waking up with leg cramps. My resting heart rate was 95. Which is not normal. At that time, I was 28 years old, and my resting heart rate was 95. I often felt heart palpitations. Just like Katharina, I had that feeling of just like jitteriness, anxiety, and I accepted it. I was like, well, it's just who I am. So I really didn't pay attention to any of that, but on a more subtle level, my body was screaming at me. And I love to define this as, because so many people can relate to this, this is like a new silent pandemic that's going on in the world today, is this constant overdrive of the sympathetic system, where we're constantly in overwhelm, we're constantly in that fight or flight stress response. And it's not normal. It's not normal to live in a state of burnout and overwhelm. So I rattled off a lot of symptoms. Katharina rattled off a lot of symptoms. Let's pull them all together and just talk a little bit about what the most common symptoms of burnout can look like. Some of the more obvious ones, as well as the more subtle ones. Mm-hmm. So which ones do you want to bring up to light? What were the main 3 that came up for you, Katharina?
Well, definitely hormonal imbalance. And well, that can show up as all kinds of things, right? So for me, that was a lack of having a menstrual cycle. But cortisol is a hormone, and I don't know if a lot of people realize that. We talk about cortisol, that that's that adrenaline, when that's the thing that's going to get you going, or if someone's chasing you, right? But we don't want to have that adrenaline in our bodies all the time. We're not always being chased by a lion, and so that cortisol has a purpose. But if it's always being engaged, what happens is we have pregnenolone, which is the master hormone. And that hormone is responsible for all of our sex hormones, which is like our testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, all the ones that are important for reproduction and everything else. And when cortisol is always at play, it's called the pregnenolone steal. And it takes all the energy from the pregnenolone away from our sex hormones, because it's in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, we're not thinking about reproducing. That's not important in this moment, right? So then all of the symptoms, like the mood swings, and if you're a woman, your periods are painful and heavy and out of whack, right? And weight gain, and your skin isn't as healthy, and thyroid is affected, and we can go into so many things just talking about hormones alone, right? But that's because that cortisol, and if it's always being triggered, then eventually, so like Genevieve said, when she had really, really low heart rate, or high heart rate, you had a high heart rate, right? So that's that cortisol going, and then eventually it just starts to crash, right? We can start getting into some lower, some symptoms can be even really low blood pressure, and it can be, the heart rate can also be a little bit erratic. You can start getting those heart palpitations, as Genevieve was talking about. So the hormones is a big, big piece in that. And then more aches, pains.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was a huge piece that I experienced as well, was loss of my cycle. And I didn't think anything of it until, it takes years to recover from that. That's another thing. Like, if you're in that state of hormone imbalance, no matter what hormone you're talking about, it's not a quick fix. It can take a long, long time to recover from. Mm-hmm. And I just love your expertise bringing that in here. And it speaks to me so much. And the way you explain it is so easy to understand. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Genevieve. I love co-hosting together. It's wonderful.
It is. I know. Yeah. It's so fun. Like, as we were preparing for this, we're just like, just so excited for all the things that we could share today to help other women shift from that state of burnout or overwhelm into a more easeful and blissful state. So,
another subtle one can be just standing up and getting really lightheaded all the time. That's another sign. Yeah. Adrenals are the ones that are going to be affected, right? So that can be, sensitivity to sun, right? Like, you just really extra sensitive. Those are some subtle ones.
Yeah, and that you would never associate with being in a high stress state. And like, in living in this high stress state, for me, finding that drive to like push more in my workouts and my exercise routines was so that my perceived idea was so that I would see more results, right? I would shred more, I'd build more muscle, but it almost, it's like my results plateaued, and I just couldn't get to that next level because, number one, my muscles weren't recovering, right? Like, we're never in that parasympathetic state, in that relaxed state. That's where the rest and recovery comes in. And when you're constantly striving and driving, the body just doesn't have the capacity to regenerate, because, like Katharina said, it's in this survival state. It just wants to hold on to whatever it's got.
Absolutely. Very true. And so the results start to plateau and, sometimes even slide the other way.
Mm-hmm. Getting sick too. Did you notice anything with that?
System, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I got mono, right? That mono, my immune system got so suppressed.
Yeah. interesting. And in this day and age, we want to, be boosting up the immune system for whatever is coming our way, or whatever illnesses that we might be susceptible to. So
absolutely, it's extra important.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So what helped you? What helped you shift from that phase when you identified, okay, I can't sustain this level any longer. My health is really starting to suffer here.
Yeah.
What shifted you?
There was a few sort of key things that really, really helped. And I created a flow meditation. So basically, I went through this process of touching and noticing the parts of, like, all parts of my body, right? So I would express gratitude to my eyes and my ear, like the sensory, and my, my chest and my abdomen and all of my organs inside. And it was a gratitude and appreciation without saying anything negative or wanting it to be any other way, because I was experiencing things at the time. I also had mercury toxicity. So that was also exasperated, and it likely came in because I wasn't regular with my bowel movements, so eating a lot of sushi. So there was all this stuff kind of going on. So rather than focusing on what was wrong, I only focused on the gratitude and appreciation of my body. And I was at the time seeing a naturopath who was helping me with my mercury toxicity. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I told him, and he says, "Keep doing it. Like, it's amazing at how much your body is shifting." And so
did you have guidance in that, or is that just a practice you fell into on your own?
Well, I had explored some different kinds of meditation through just, going to a class, or, listening to an audio or something. And this was just something that came to me because I started to create a practice every morning of sitting. I had my altar, I had things on there, and it was something I just created. And as it started to morph, and started to, like, really, this was the thing that I was doing every day. That was when I decided to record it. And I recorded it. At the time, it was a CD, and I shared it, and I got so much response from it that I was just like, okay, this is, I'm glad that this is something that's going to help other people. And so that was that key piece to sort of like reframing. And then so then that helped me let go of the rigidity, to just let go of that holding on, and honoring more of that nature that's within me, that knowing, that flow. And then the next thing I did is I started to change my workouts. This is about 16, 17 years ago. Started to change my workouts to 20-minute workouts 3 times a week. And they were more intense, but they were more focused. I wasn't like, oh, when's lunchtime? Or I can't wait till I go to Hawaii in a month. Or it was just 100% in my body and focusing on the muscle that I'm working, so that all the energy is directed to that, just like that gratitude and appreciation. And by doing so, my results were tenfold. So I was getting better results, doing way less. And I loved it, right? Because I'm also a little bit ADD. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm done in 20 minutes. I'm so happy. I'm on to what's next. But it was also recognizing that my workouts are where I recharge my energy and my batteries. This is the energy I create for life. This is not me taking time out of life to exercise. This is life. And when I could reframe that, and I help this with my clients, I do this reframe at the end of their session so that they could take that energy and express it into their day. And it's a game changer. And then the last thing that I did was, as part of that is that reframe. So it's and then nutritionally, I started to trust my body that it was going to tell me what it needed. And like you have mentioned, not today, Genevieve, but that you do this sort of seasonal eating, which is so important, is that we need to listen. We're not like forcing ourselves to eat salads all day, every day in the middle of the wintertime, right? My body craves warming foods in the wintertime and more carbohydrates. And even in our cyclical nature every month, whether you're menstruating or not, there's a time where when you can utilize more carbohydrates, where you burn more calories in your cycle. And there's times when you work harder and push harder, and there's times to go a little bit more inward. And when we work with that nature, results happen.
Yeah.
And bliss happens. That's why the bliss.
I love hearing that, because I know for me at certain times in my cycle, I'm like, ravenous for certain foods or certain types of foods, and I just can't fill up. And it's like, well, your body's trying to regenerate. Like we are cellular beings, and we need to nourish ourselves so that our body can do this regeneration. And as we move through cycles, we're shedding a lot of stuff out, right? And toxin and old stagnant energy and blood. And, we need to help build up that lining again. And how are we going to do it? And our body is telling us through hunger cues and hormonal cues as well. So I love that. And even the connection, like the way that you bring in the connection with the internal self, like that's something I feel with my story, I really, really lacked. And, all these years later, I'm learning those tools of how to connect to the inner self, so that I'm really using my body as a compass to guide me through what I need on what day. So that was
Beautiful.
A piece, like walking through that was a piece that really helped pull me out of that burnout stage, was just to step back a bit and really get quiet and listen to, what the body was telling me. And even around like the mindset piece that you brought up, that was a huge shift for me too, was really reframing what health and fitness actually meant to me, right?
Yes.
And then rediscovering the truth of that. And I also noticed, like, I had to really scale back how much I was doing. Like, 2 to 3 hours exercise a day is absurd.
Mm-hmm.
It is not needed. And I did a very similar approach where I backed off. I was very intentional with my time. After I had kids, that's where I shifted to home workouts. And, you got to be really agile with your time after having kids. Like sometimes all I had was 10 or 20 minutes. And that's when I really noticed, I was like, wow, I'm getting better results here in this 10 to 20, 30 minutes was a long workout. This is great. Like I felt like I was like cashing in on the exercise lottery, because I was so used to, giving so much time of my day to working out for me to feel like I had accomplished something.
Right. And then not feeling like, oh my gosh, like I had a piece of cake, I got to go run for an hour. Right. This like calorie exchange. Yeah,
exactly. It's not about that. And that was another big learning curve, was shifting the nutrition. Because even in that state of overtraining, ask anyone who knows me, who knew me back then, I lived off of chickpeas, peanut butter, and kale. And I tell you now, I've gone through an elimination diet process to really find what foods work for me. And none of those work for me.
I bet, because if you're eating the same foods all the time and you have a stressed gut, that when we get that leaky gut, it's usually the things that you're eating all the time and the most of, even if they're healthy, that you may start to develop a sensitivity to.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't touch a chickpea with a 10-foot pole anymore.
Right? I know.
Peanut butter sometimes is a bit of a, something that, like, you become more empowered and knowledgeable about what you're eating too. It's like, okay, I know what that's going to do to me. I either choose to accept that consequence or not. And sometimes I do choose to accept it. And a lot of times I don't anymore, but yeah. Now, one other thing that really helped shift me out of burnout was adopting a recovery-based approach. And because I'm a very physical person, and movement, that like I express myself through movement, the idea of, only giving myself 20 minutes a few days a week for exercise was too much for me to accept. So I started pulling in more yogic practices, yoga and breathing practices, to help move me from that sympathetic state into the parasympathetic state. And from that, I noticed huge shifts in my resting heart rate level, with my anxiety levels, with my mobility, how I was recovering from muscle soreness and stiffness. And the one thing I really loved from this approach, and I love seeing the ahas on students' faces that I teach now, when they start to incorporate yoga, they see how much it hijacks their workouts in such a good way. Because the more we can expand and open and stretch and lengthen, the more range of motion we're getting when we're actually applying ourselves into the strength-based workouts. And it happens every time. I get people coming to me saying like, oh my God, I had no idea how effective yoga is on my workouts. So it's not just about sitting down, cross-legged, oming all day long.
Right? Exactly.
It has a lot of benefits, mental as well as physical. So it's a key piece to the programming I follow now is yoga and recovery.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. And when I spoke to you, we shared our stories and shared, what we do and how we help people. And that's why for those of you out there, we both have our own, businesses and our own membership offerings. Mine's called the Body Freedom Membership, and Genevieve is going to be the first guest speaker in my program.
I'm so excited.
So she's going to be filling that gap of adding that restorative yoga and restorative movement, infuse that in a way that's going to help everyone to come into that practice of movement with solitude, and also to help with sleep, right? Because it's nice to have a practice that you're going to be able to do. You don't do one thing every day. You're going to be doing different things. So this is another beautiful thing to infuse and add. And I'm so excited to share that with my membership. And also for those of you who are not part of our memberships, we're giving you lots of tools today. And we also have an offer for you to give you for free, which we'll share in a moment. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to and the yoga and the sleep and the nutrition. This is all part of a recovery-based approach. And the one piece that I'm building in Up Level Pro, which is my private community, is that mindfulness and meditative aspect. That's the one piece that I'm still starting to build out, and I'm really excited for what Katharina is offering to members of Up Level Pro. Is her flow meditation series, which she spoke about earlier, and I just can't wait because it's such a tangible way to get connected in a short amount of time, to get connected and go through that process of sensory and gratitude for this temple, this beautiful temple that you have. And we only get one and only of it, and we abuse it so much a lot of the time. So just learning to give ourselves that few moments through this practice, I think will be very, very powerful. So thank you for sharing that with members. It's just such a complimentary practice, and the way we do things a little differently. Our methodologies are very similar with a few different steps, but all in all, I just love how our concepts really just weave together and complement each other.
Exactly. And everybody's got their own journey, right? So both Genevieve and I have our own journey, and we've infused that with our vocation and what we have to offer in this world. And the great thing is there's no competition, because there's going to be people that are going to be drawn to Genevieve because of the way that she offers and how what she's put together in her philosophies. And that's going to be exactly what they need. And people are going to be drawn to me for my own offering of what I have to give through what I've learned and what's lived through me. And this is the beautiful thing about coming together and co-hosting and creating together, is that there is no competition. We just want to offer and show you what we have, and you're going to be drawn to explore. And that is actually our offer, is to to offer you a discovery session, and you can have one with each of us if you like, or if you're drawn to one of us, then you can choose to have that discovery session. And so happy to be able to offer that.
Yeah, we'll drop the link in the comments, and I'll post it in the description once we're done the live stream. But really what this discovery call is about, is really uncovering what your patterns or areas that are keeping you stuck, or maybe on that hamster wheel of overdrive and burnout. And then taking a look individually. So for you, what are your next steps, or what is the next step that you need to take? You know, maybe it's something that we do have to offer. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's something completely different. But we want to help you shift from that state. So just by talking it out and uncovering, you know, where you're at and what that next step is, can be a really powerful shift.
Yeah. And whether it's with us or not, like we want to serve you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just want to recap here. A couple things that we talked about today were the signs of burnout, including the not so subtle signs. And then we shared a bunch of methods with you that can help you shift things that work for us really well. And like you heard, they're pretty like simple everyday things that you can do just with a tweak of a mindset, with a tweak of with your diet, or even just finding that inner connection with yourself, and bringing yoga into your practices as well. So, you know, we can help give you that next step. So make sure you click the link in the description. I'll drop it in the comments as well. And we look forward to hearing you very soon. Now, Katharina, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook under Katharina Personal Evolution, or on my personal page, Katharina Kunz. And my website is personalevolution.ca. And if you do a / Body Freedom Now, that will tell you a little bit about my membership program. But otherwise, there's other things on there that can give you some tools that you can utilize. And I also have a free ebook on there.
Fabulous. Well, I just posted in the comments the links, and I'll so you guys can pick what you'd like there to book a call with us and learn more.
And where can they
if you have
find
any
you?
Questions? Oh, sorry, I put it in the comments.
Okay.
Well, I put the link to book a discovery call, and my website is GenevieveMorrone.com. If you're watching this live, then you're already on my business page or my Facebook page, and I'm also on YouTube as well, Genevieve Morrone Yoga and Fitness Coaching. So look forward to hearing from you and helping you take that next step.
And we all want you to live in bliss, right? That's why this is Burnout to Bliss and not Burnout to Balance, because, you know, oftentimes for me, that balance is different depending on what it is that I'm needing to explore, right? So if it's if I'm needing to spend more time nutritionally or focus on more like my inner world, right? Sometimes other things have to go out of balance a little bit to kind of dive into that and bring that up, right? So that balance is going to be unique to each of us. And so that bliss is that guidance when we are feeling that inner bliss, when we're feeling alive and energized. That's our roadmap, so to speak, or our sign.
Love it.
So bliss to you all.
Yes. So I'm going to end on this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it's I don't know who wrote it, but make bliss the prime motivation for doing anything. Beautiful. I love that.
Love that too.
Well, I'm so happy we got to co-host together. This was so fun. I could see more in our future.
Yes.
Yeah.
And living in the same city, we might do some.
I know. Yeah, totally.
Workshops or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. Any last comments at all?
Just please reach out. It's no cost to you. There's no harm.
No obligation.
No obligation in any way whatsoever. So we would love to serve.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there. Not too bad. 39 minutes. That's okay.
Yeah.
If you're watching the replay, thank you for carving out the time, and thanks for being with us, those who were live. Talk to you again.